So, the topic of this video is dating Colombian women in Barranquilla. So, Barranquilla, if you don't already know, it's in the north of Colombia on the north coast. Down here is Medellin. You can see Medellin there, and Barranquilla is right here. So, I've got a few points, and I'll just quickly run through them. And then after I do that, I will touch on each one in a little more detail. And some of them, well, actually maybe just one or two will relate directly to Barranquilla as compared to other cities in Colombia. So the first thing is that this is a descriptive discussion and analysis. It is not really a strategic analysis. Okay? So the difference is, with a strategic analysis, it depends on things like, are you good looking? How wealthy are you? How old are you? Do you have any do you have any health problems? Do you have kids? There are tons of different factors that will go into any analysis, right? That the strategy will be different based on those circumstances. So what I'm going to do is just describe mainly my own experiences, but just in telling what has happened. Now, incidentally, I may touch on some strategic aspects, but in the general case, right? It wouldn't be that, well, older men should just do this. No, it's just going to be, well, what have I experienced myself, and what has happened. And so again, this can't, for any type of real strategy would, you have to consider your individual circumstances, right? So I won't go any further into that. So 3 points. 1, taxi fare. Should you pay it? That's going to be a question. You're going to that is actually a big issue. Flakiness. They don't show up to dates. They talk to you a little bit on WhatsApp, but they don't. How flaky are they? Then, are you a novelty item? Right? There's some of these chicks will go and they'll go out with you just because they have never met an American. Okay? Or maybe they just want to practice English. Okay? Another point. Their work schedule. And then second to finally, well, I'll touch on that one. Be careful with the Venezuelans. And finally, is this issue of, money, right? If you're an expat and you're a remote worker, or I suppose if you're just here for a couple of weeks, or you've decided to stay for a month, or who knows, it still applies to you. And that's the issue of money. Are they, trying to just snatch the cash away from you? Okay, so with Barranquilla chicks, now these ones might be an exception because these look like they're kind of more upper middle class in the north. So with Barranquilla chicks, there's quite a few of them that you'll discover they don't really have the money to get up to where you live, which is up here in the north. You're going to be staying in the north. There's no question about it. There's no reason. And the north really just means the upper north, the upper 1/3 of Barranquilla. Okay, so the 2/3 down here it's not really the same. Okay, it's not as safe, it's not as nice, the internet isn't as good, they don't have the malls, etc. And then Soledad, which is really, it isn't a separate city, but it's really quite part of Barranquilla. There's no place, if you're in these neighborhoods, you don't really see a thing that says, now entering Soledad. But so this also, if you look at this whole area, And then you look at the north here, a good 3/4 of it, a strong 3/4 of it are kind of the poor areas. And what's more, there's a distance. They're going to have to be getting up to where you are, right? And it may not be that convenient to take a bus and then switch and transfer and then go walk another 3 blocks to do this. I mean, that the bus process could end up taking them an hour and a half. And imagine if you're someone who works 6 days a week, which many of them do, you don't want to spend an hour and a half on these buses, so they're going to want taxi fare. And the thing is, a lot of them will. At any rate, even the ones that don't ask for it will. It'll be nice. I have totally changed my position on this, by the way. At first, I was very offended by it, and even though I've lived in Rio de Janeiro, the wealthy part of Rio de Janeiro, no girl ever asked me for that. I mean, not that I can recall. Very rarely. Maybe a little here and there, but not really. And also, I've lived in China. I never did. I've lived in Russia. That wasn't an issue. But here, I don't know why, but it just is. They don't really have good public transportation. And like I say, if you want them to come up and meet you, and they're working 6 days a week, many of them do. Most of them do work 6 days a week. You're going to have to pay. It's usually about $4 or $5 to get from someplace down all around in here up to the north. Again, you don't consider not living in the north. You need to be up here for safety, for the whole deal. Okay, don't. There are people who save money live down here. That's just foolish. At any rate, so you're going to need to pay it. You don't have to. You can get a lot of them. They'll meet you and they won't demand the taxi fare. About, I don't know, maybe 30% of them will. They'll kind of, and depending on where they are, from about here, where my mouse is, up to the north, it's maybe, I don't know, 13 or 14,000 pesos. And that's maybe $4. So it may cost you and if they're way down in South Soledad, wow, it could be like 17,000 pesos or 18,000 pesos. Way down in Soledad, maybe more, maybe 20,000. Way down here is the airport, right? You mean you could get on the airport for 30,000, right? Down here in the airport, and so how much is that? That's about $10. No, it's less than $10. It's $8. But that's one way, right? So expect to pay about $4 each way for them to come up and meet you at like a shopping mall up here. Okay, now, and to some, in the smaller cities in the Dominican Republic, I lived in Santiago Santiago de los Caballeros, that's in the Dominican Republic. It was a smaller city, so it wasn't quite. Sometimes they did ask for it there too, but not quite as much. Here, it's more of an issue. Barranquilla is a bigger city, and so okay. Now another thing that I've noticed with dating these Colombian women here in Barranquilla is the flakiness, right? They're flaky and fickle. It's like, well, what's going on? I don't know. So a lot of these chicks, I would say half of them, I meet them on Colombian Cupid or Tinder or Badoo, and I even get their WhatsApp. And I start talking with them, and they never show up to the date, or they not show up to the date, but they never will. Although sometimes that happens. Okay, sometimes that happens. They, keep talking with you over and over for days, and they can't set up the time, and it's this, and a lot of times it is the work, right? Because these girls, they're working in a coal mine. I mean, they really do. A lot of them they work 9 hours a day, and their boss changes their schedule, and they're tired after work, and it's they've got maybe one weekend day per week to go hang out with you, and maybe they've got family, maybe they've got kids. I mean, it's tough. There's very little time for that. Okay, there's very little time for that. If you come across a chick who, for whatever reason, is sin empleo, if she doesn't have employment at that moment, whoa, you're lucky. Take advantage of it. That's a good. All right. Yeah. So consider that. Consider that. So at any rate, but they're also very flaky. I won't do this or I won't do that. And they don't keep their promises. Okay, and I think that has something to do with the culture here. All right, people don't keep promises as much, and you've got this kind of cycle. They can't really promise you. They want to promise. They do promise, and then someone else breaks their promise to them. And lo and behold, because of some little fire they have to put out over here, they've got to reschedule, renegotiate with you. Okay, this is a society-wide phenomenon, but it will impact your dating of these chicks. And at first you'll think, well, this chick is just, I mean, she's full of bullshit or, whatever, but it's not. There's a reason for it that should make you feel less ticked off about it. Now, on the other hand, also, in Colombia is a place where there is less respect for other people in general. They don't have as much respect for others, and it's not a good thing. They don't respect other people's time as much. It's not a Protestant society. It's not quite so much of a picnic. People aren't as concerned with people who aren't their family. If you're not your family, familia, or your close friends, then they don't care. They feel, hey, you can screw you. I don't, whatever. I don't, whatever. Yeah. So that's kind of what you're dealing with. Doesn't mean they don't have a good side. Doesn't mean they're not worthy of interest, etc. And yeah. Now, a lot of times you'll find that they need to confirm, and this relates again to flakiness. They'll want to confirm that they're going to meet you. If they don't confirm that they're going to meet you, like, okay, I confirm I'm going to meet you today at this time, at this place, sometimes they won't even show up. You'll think that you've done it, but you've maybe even the day before or 2 days before, you said, okay, I'll meet you at 2 o'clock at this shop at Buena Vista, Centro Comercial Buena Vista. Te espero en Puerta Principal. Okay, a las 2. Okay. I'm going to meet you at 2 o'clock at this shopping mall, at this place. And you don't confirm, and all of a sudden, you'll send her a WhatsApp message at 2 o'clock, like, hey, where are you? And say, huh? What? Oh, no, I had to do something else. But you didn't confirm. You didn't confirm. I didn't know you were going to do it. I mean, it's really disrespectful, right? You're going to say it's very disrespectful. Yeah, it is. But they kind of think if you don't confirm, then it really doesn't matter, and they're busy with something else, and they won't feel guilty about it. They might not even say sorry. Some of them will. Okay, some of them will. Right? The ones who are members of Christian churches, quite frankly. Again, it's the Protestant Catholic bias. And if you're Catholic, or you have that background, or you'll find I'm, it's kind of just saying bad things about your group or something silly like that. It's too bad, but those are the facts that inform your real experience. That's reality. So now move on to another one. Are you a novelty? I know this is something this is one of the factors that highlights the difference between Barranquilla and other cities in Colombia. For example, Medellin. Okay, are you a novelty? Are you something really different? In Medellin, I remember I was there for a month and dating lots of chicks. And I know, and I can tell you that we're not as much of a novelty as a foreigner, as an American or a Canadian or a Brit. We're not as big a deal in Medellin, and that's a good thing, right? That's good. There's so many foreigners in Medellin that, it's not that big. I remember a lot of the chicks that I meet them, and they tend to, that's one thing I like about Medellin, probably more than Barranquilla, is the sense that you're not, they kind of, whoa, who's this? Whoa, what's this? And they're very curious. They're very curious. I lived in China for a number of years, and they called it 好奇心, right? The curious. I had this one guy remark to me that, the girls, they're just interested in you because they have 好奇心. They have, in China, it roughly translated interest out of curiosity or something. That's. So that's not good, because it means there's a lot of these chicks, and I've noticed some of them. They just want to go out and meet you. They have no intention of actually you being their real boyfriend and that, but they just, gosh, I really want to meet an American. I really want to practice my English a little bit. Although I suppose they want to do that in Medellin too. But they want, whoa, this is something different. This may be my only chance to meet an American. Or I really always wanted to meet someone from England. Or, geez, this foreign guy from Europe, I really like Europe. I would love to, this is my only time. I never left Colombia. Wouldn't it be great? No, you don't want that. You want supply and demand to be matched up in such a way that you're in demand. And that there's the supply and demand creates opportunities. And that definitely is present in Barranquilla, for sure. But you don't want these window shoppers. You don't want these people that will they want to learn something about you. And learn something. This is kind of like going on a field trip or something. You don't want that. And I've noticed that is a little more present here. But in Medellin, they could care less. It's a waste of their time. They're not, a waste of their time. They're going to, if they're one of the girls in Medellin who don't speak English or really aren't committed to learning English, or that's not really on their agenda, they won't date with you. They won't go out on a date if they're not interested in you. So that's a negative point for sure about Barranquilla, because that does exist here. Okay, new point. And that is, be careful of the Venezuelans. Okay, there's a lot of that they're a little too desperate, and quite frankly, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because Maduro and previously the Chavez regime have kind of stirred up this notion that they certainly have broadcast it continuously, and that is that America caused the problems in Venezuela. You know what you're saying? No, believe me, as someone who's lived for years in both communist countries and former communist countries, believe me, the government absolutely can stir up and convince the minds of people, or at least put in them a doubt. Well, I'm just not sure. It could be so that it was some plot by the Americans, or what were the Americans up to? It's some secret they're keeping us down, or it was a currency manipulation, or this, that they, etc. And so I don't know if there's some of these Venezuelans who are suffering under that delusion and somehow want revenge, or they're thinking that, well, the Americans owe me something. You have to be very careful when someone thinks they owe you, that you owe them something. I mean, the next step is they're going to take advantage of you, and they go the last teeny shred, the 10% of a person's conscience that's left, of course, they'll wipe it away, and they'll be that much more able to justify bad behavior towards you, unethical or immoral behavior towards you, take advantage of you, etc. And as a matter of fact, there was a Venezuelan who was in Cartagena. I made another video. There's a Venezuelan, or she's half Venezuelan, a video, one of my videos here. And I'm not referring to her. There was a Venezuelan in Cartagena, and she led me along, and she was about in the right age as me. I'm 51, by the way. And she was 38, very good looking, pretty good looking, and I thought so. And she's, I want a good relationship and the whole deal. And so I went down to Cartagena to meet her and hang out. And I did. We had some dinner and this, and lo and behold, she's like, okay, well, can I stay at your place tonight? And I said, okay, sure. She said, okay, well, I need this much money. I really, I like you, but I need this much money. And I said, what the fuck? What the F you? What the heck? She's a whore. She had lured me down to Cartagena, which, by the way, is a rather whorish city. There's a lot of whores in Cartagena. Not a good place to look for, to do any dating. Or I won't, that may be going too far, because Cartagena has some quite astounding women, I will admit. But at any rate, she had lied, and so she had brought me down there under the auspices, obviously deceiving me. And I really, it's just awful to do. I wasted all that time. Of course, I didn't pay her. Of course, I didn't consummate that deal with her. I don't do that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I mean, I'm not judging you if you do, if that's something that you need to do, or maybe if I needed to do it, I would. I don't. And I don't like whores generally. I mean, their personality is awful, awful, awful. There's nothing more of a turnoff to me than whores, prostitutes, and streetwalkers. So at any rate, look out for, and I encountered another Venezuelan that I think that I had the same thing, and I think there's something went wrong in that country. There's some kind of they kind of lack a conscience in a certain way. They've got some real problems, and those problems are deep cultural issues. They've kind of got moral blind spots, some of them. You look in the cupboard, it's like, you open this particular one of the cupboards open where the morality is, it's kind of bare, it's empty. It's like, what? Where's it's complete? They can't respond. It's almost amoral. It's not that they're, watch out for Venezuelans. I would just have to say that. Watch out for them. Not all of them. Some of them are great. Some of them are fine. But there are many of them that will approach you. I don't know why, but I guess I do know why. Part of the reason is, hey, it is now this leads into the next thing, money. Okay? This leads into this. It is an issue. It's, I'm not going to generalize about women always wanting money or not, but quite frankly, if you think that these chicks in South America don't have that on their mind, that's just foolish. I would say you really need to watch this issue. Don't ever give them gifts. I don't give them gifts or buy them stuff. I'll pay for taxi. If we're going out to eat, I'll pay for what we eat. If we go to a restaurant, I don't expect her to pay. If we go take some little trip out to the beach, we need to do the taxi out there, and it costs 30,000 pesos. I'm not expecting her to pay there or back. And if we eat out there at the kind of private resort place at the beach, that's not that expensive, pretty darn cheap actually. I won't expect her to pay, etc. But don't get into the business of just giving them money and doing all that. If they want to be your girlfriend, find out really early on and kick them loose, and let them know there's no way that's going to happen. This is not that kind of deal. But still, even then, you'll get these chicks where they'll play the short game. So that's one thing I noticed in the Dominican Republic. Wow, it's probably twice as worse as it is in Colombia in terms of them playing, quote unquote, playing the short. They're not playing the long game. They're like, hey, I want to get some money now. Can you buy me this right away? Right away, can you buy me this? So in Colombia, it's about 50% as bad as the Dominican Republic, where they'll, immediately hit you up for gifts. But you can clear that away. I think you should be able to clear that out on the WhatsApp, right? You should clear it out on the WhatsApp with them. You start asking them questions, going, oh, by the way, I'm quite fluent. I'm pretty darn. I have read. I read recently a book in Spanish, a novel, and I don't know, maybe 90% of the words I'm familiar with, something like that. And my Spanish is pretty fluent. I don't think you should try this. I don't think you should try dating in Colombia unless you have some handle on the Spanish language for sure. It just doesn't. That doesn't make sense at all. I understand everything they say to me. Sometimes they speak a little too quickly, and I have to ask them to say it again or speak a little slower. I certainly can read everything they write without a translator, without using Google Translate or whatever. So that's a side point. But yeah, you should be able on WhatsApp to sort that out. You need to ferret out whether or not they're this kind of woman, they're really coming into it like that or not. And you will. Sometimes you even have to go on a date to find out. Shut them down. Shut them down. Because if you're going to do that, you might as well just go to a whore, right? So these are like, they're everything. They're not whores technically, but they're as, they would be if they could be. Right. Alrighty. So, yeah, I'm gonna do a couple more videos in this series, or I don't know if it's not a series, but I bet there's some other issues or topics I haven't touched on. So have a good one, you guys.